Hey guys, welcome back to the Sleepy Science. Tonight, you're not just here to fall asleep, you're here to soften, to wander, to loosen your grip on all the sharp edges of the day. Outside your window, the sky is a dimming canvas, brushed with the final strokes of dusk. The last bird call echoes like a punctuation mark on the sentence of today. Somewhere in your chest, the familiar ache of imperfection stirs, not as something to fix, but something to finally notice. There's a quiet magic in this exact moment. Your breath slows just slightly. Your body, like a page being gently turned, prepares to enter that soft place between awareness and dreaming. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it over there? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin at the doorway of dusk, where every surface glows a little softer, and the lines between perfect and imperfect blur into a twilight hue. There's something sacred about this hour. As the light fades, so do expectations. You don't have to be anything sharp anymore. You're no longer defined by the emails unanswered, the floors unswept, the things you wish you'd said or hadn't. You're just here. You notice how your thoughts begin to drift, not in neat rows, but like leaves carried by a slow river. And in that drift, a question rises, gentle and unassuming. What if perfection isn't real? Or worse, what if it is, but it's boring? Let's linger there. You start to wonder why perfect things, flawless models, symmetrically shaped fruit, untouched snow, rarely stir the heart. They're admired, maybe, respected, but do they comfort you? Do they stay with you long after they're gone? Probably not. There's something about the crack in the vase, the wrong note in the song, the messy, uneven handwriting in an old letter that makes you pause and smile. Imperfection. It feels warm, doesn't it? Human, honest. It's not pretending. And maybe that's why you're here tonight. Not to be fixed or polished or tucked into some airtight version of yourself, but to loosen, to feel how softness comes not in spite of the flaws, but because of them. You shift slightly in bed, the sheets rustling like autumn leaves. The hum of the world fades to a whisper, and in the background your brain continues its gentle hum like a jazz tune, with no clear rhythm, but somehow it still swings. And speaking of rhythm, did you know that your own heartbeat is not regular? In fact, if your heart beat in a perfectly predictable rhythm, doctors would be concerned. Real, healthy hearts have variability, little imperfections in timing that actually help them adapt, stay resilient, and respond to stress. It's called heart rate variability, and scientists say it's one of the best indicators of physical and emotional well-being. So even your literal heart knows that imperfection's strength. Funny how we forget that when it comes to our own lives, huh? But maybe you're remembering now. So your breath rises and falls, and you feel yourself becoming both smaller and larger. Smaller in that your daily worries begin to shrink, dissolving into the shadows. Larger in that you begin to sense you're part of something big and slow and beautiful. A tapestry still being woven, threads occasionally tangled and colors sometimes clashing, but that's what makes it a masterpiece. Remember when you were a kid and you tried to draw a perfect circle? You never quite could you? Your hand would tremble, your lines wobble, but when you showed it to someone who loved you, they'd say, "That's beautiful," and they meant it. Some cultures believe that perfection is inhospitable. In traditional Islamic art, a deliberate flaw is included in patterns to remind us that only God is perfect. Persian rug makers would weave a small mistake into each carpet for the same reason, because striving for flawlessness is not just impossible, it's unnatural. You pause on that word, unnatural. It's like a breath held too long. It feels tight, sterile, too smooth to touch. Perfection is the hotel room with white walls, white sheets, white silence. It's the untouched museum exhibit, pretty sure, but you don't live there. You visit it, then go home, back to the chipped coffee mug, the cluttered shelf, the laundry still warm from the dryer. Those things? That's real. That's yours. The moon outside your window is imperfect too. Its craters and shadows, its slightly lopsided orbit. And yet people have written poetry to it for thousands of years. No one ever wrote a love letter to a flawless sphere. Why? Because perfection doesn't feel like a friend, but imperfection. That feels like recognition. And just before your thoughts begin to fade into dream, here's something odd to hold on to. Did you know the Leaning Tower of Pisa began leaning before it was finished? It was a construction error, an accident, a flaw. Engineers spent centuries trying to stabilize it, but they never fixed the tilt. Why? Because by then, the world had fallen in love with it, as it was. Today, millions of people travel across the world to see that imperfection. They take pictures pretending to hold it up. They cherish what once was seen as a mistake. Funny how that works. Maybe you're like that too. Maybe the parts you've always tried to correct are the ones the world will fall in love with. Let that thought settle gently on your pillow. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be real. And real things are beautiful in ways perfect ones never can be. Your body grows heavier now. Your breath finds a quieter rhythm. Let this be your doorway, the one that doesn't quite close all the way, the one with the creaky hinge, the one that leads you home anyway. You step off the sidewalk now, into a patch of grass that remembers rain. It's not soft. There are sticks. A stone jabs your heel, but still you walk, because discomfort isn't always danger. Sometimes it's awakening. Puggy, there's a tree ahead. Not tall, not ancient, just present. Its bark is worn smooth, where hands have touched it. Children, maybe, or someone who once needed to lean on something stronger than themselves. You reach out, your fingers meet the trunk, not expecting magic, just connection. And then you notice, the tree is humming, not a sound, but a feeling, like the low, slow song of something alive and patient. And for a moment, you wonder, if you stood here long enough, would you grow roots too? Another odd little truth. Trees talk to each other underground. They share nutrients, warn of danger, even support the weak or wounded, all through a vast hidden network of mycorrhizal fungi. So if you ever feel isolated, know that connection often happens where no one sees it. Support exists even when it's silent. Maybe you're already part of something bigger, something rooted. See, you lie down now, right in the grass. No blanket, no plan, just earth beneath you, sky above. You stare up through branches. The leaves whisper, stories you don't quite catch. And maybe that's okay. Not everything needs to be understood to be felt. Your breath rises, falls, matches the wind, matches the pulse of a planet that never stops turning, even when you do. And in this stillness, a thought arrives. Maybe rest isn't what happens when everything is finished. Maybe rest is what allows everything to begin again. Maybe, right now, doing nothing is the most important thing in the world. There's an insect near your hand, a beetle, iridescent green, tiny legs tapping across your skin like Morse code. You don't flinch, you just notice. Isn't it strange how wonder shrinks when we grow up? When did you stop marveling at the way light bounces off a beetle's back? When did small things stop feeling holy? You smile, because wonder didn't disappear. You just stopped looking, but you're looking now, and that changes everything. The wind picks up, not enough to chill you, just enough to remind you that the air is alive. It moves through your hair, through the grass, through the world, and you realize it has touched everything before you. Mountains, oceans, temples, battlefields, lovers, graves, and now you are part of its story, and it is part of yours. You sit up slowly, no rush, no goal, just presence. There's a path ahead, uneven, muddy in places, It doesn't promise ease, or beauty, or even a destination, but it invites you, and somehow, that's enough. The tree behind you doesn't wave goodbye. It doesn't need to. It just remains, like truths too deep to say out loud. And as you begin walking again, the earth seems to whisper beneath your steps. You are not lost. You are simply wandering. And that's not a problem. That's a path. Your steps are quieter now, not out of fear or caution, but reverence, as if the world is more fragile than you remembered. Or maybe you've become more gentle. The path curves into a forgotten orchard, fruit trees gone wild, branches knotted and reaching like stories that were never edited. Some bear fruit, lopsided, sun-blotched, imperfect in every delicious way. You pluck one, feel the weight of it in your palm. It's not the prettiest apple you've seen, but the scent. It smells like a memory you didn't know you missed. Yin. There's a bite, then a pause. The taste isn't sweet the way supermarkets promise. It's sharp, complex, honest. It reminds you of your grandmother's kitchen, when nothing matched and everything mattered. And suddenly, you're thinking of her. The way she folded towels, the way her hands moved when she kneaded dough. She didn't try to be perfect, she just was. And in that, she was extraordinary. Do you remember the Japanese art of Kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, so the cracks become part of the beauty, not a flaw? You wonder how many of your own cracks are visible, how many you've tried to hide, how many might actually be the most interesting part of you. Scientists still debate whether the brain heals best through time or repetition, but the heart seems to know its own way. Maybe healing isn't about erasing pain. Maybe it's about honoring it, filling it with gold, and letting it shine. You hear a voice, but not a person, just the creak of a nearby tree bending in the wind. It sounds like laughter, old laughter, like someone who's been through storms and now finds joy in the wind. You laugh too, because isn't that the goal? Not to avoid the wind, but to dance with it. There's a bench nearby, crooked, worn, a sliver of wood missing from one leg, but it holds you just fine. You sit and notice how the orchard doesn't ask anything of you, not improvement, not performance, not even attention. It just exists, and in doing so it invites you to do the same. You think about how much energy you've spent trying to be better, and now, in this crooked bench, with a half-eaten apple, you wonder, what if you're not a project to fix? What if you're a garden to tend? Somewhere in the distance, a bird sings a note that doesn't resolve. It hangs in the air like an unfinished sentence, and you don't need the ending. You just listen. There's power in not knowing, in letting questions live a little longer. That's what scientists often forget. The most meaningful discoveries happen after the hypothesis fails, not before. You let the unknown rest in your chest, soft and warm, like a cat that trusts you, and you smile. Another odd little tidbit. Bananas are technically berries, but strawberries aren't. You laugh, because why not? Why should the world make perfect sense? It doesn't. And maybe that's the point. The clouds above shift, not dramatically, just enough to remind you. Even the sky is in flux. And if the sky doesn't need to be consistent, why should you? You lie back on the bench now, legs over the armrest, head tilted toward possibility. And as your eyes flutter closed, you hear the wind whisper. You don't have to bloom constantly to be alive. And for the first time in a while, you believe it. You drift deeper now, past the point of needing direction. There's a softness here, a loosening of the edges, like the inside of a well-loved book, where the spine creaks with memory, and the margins hold thoughts you barely remember writing. Above you, clouds drift like forgotten dreams, not rushing anywhere, just being. You wonder, when did just being stop being enough? The boat glides past a floating lantern. It's flickering slightly. Its flame not quite steady, but still alight. You lean over and watch it, and as you do, a memory stirs. Of childhood, of paper lanterns released into the night sky, each one carrying a wish no one spoke out loud. Some soared, some sank, some spun in place until their flames dimmed and disappeared, but no one ever called them failures. They were just stories, told to the stars. You sigh, a small one, like an exhale that's been waiting years to be noticed. Far ahead, something begins to shimmer, not brightly, more like moonlight caught in a puddle. It's a cluster of wind chimes hanging from a crooked branch, tangled with seaweed, knotted by time. The boat slows near them, and for a moment, you hear their voice. Not words, just tones, gentle dissonance, like a choir with missing members, still singing anyway. You wonder how many people you've loved like that. Incomplete, but harmonious. A curious fact surfaces in your mind. No two snowflakes are the same, but they all melt the same way. Isn't that something? Each born unique, falling with their own silent spin, yet destined to disappear into the same slow puddle of everything. You dip your fingers in the water again. It welcomes you without question. No ID, no credentials. No need to explain who you were trying to be. Your body settles further into the wooden cradle of the boat. Every knot in the timber feels like it remembers something. Maybe every tree remembers being wild before it was turned into something useful. You wonder, what parts of yourself were sanded down for convenience? What branches were trimmed so you'd fit someone else's forest? And what if you stopped trying to be polished? What if the rough edges were where the light got in? The seabird cries in the distance, not a graceful sound, more like a sneeze wrapped in a yawn. You laugh again. There it is, that reminder that perfection isn't beautiful. It's the cracked voice of someone trying, the lopsided smile, the mismatched socks worn on purpose. You remember a friend who always laughed too loud. It embarrassed them, but you secretly loved it. It made things feel real, like someone left the world on unfiltered. Which the stars above begin to shimmer with a new kind of light, not brighter, just closer. You realize you're not traveling through space anymore. You're part of it, like the boat, like the water, like the wind chimes and their stubborn song. Everything belongs, even the things that don't make sense, even you, especially you. The boat glides near an old pier, broken boards, nails rusted into poetry. A single chair with one leg shorter than the rest, and somehow it's still upright, still holding space for someone who might come back. You imagine sitting in that chair, letting it rock awkwardly, feeling its imperfection as an invitation, not a flaw. You've tried so hard to measure up, to match some invisible line in the sand. But what if the line was never real? What if the tide was meant to wash it away? The boat slows, the stars brighten, and your thoughts begin to slow dance. Not every step matches the beat, but there's rhythm in the stumbling. You remember a theory, that the universe isn't made of atoms, but of stories. Every mistake, every scar, every awkward pause, a syllable in some unfinished sentence, that means more because it was never edited. You close your eyes, and for once, you don't feel behind, or broken, or late. You just feel here, not as a role, or a project, or a brand of productivity, but as breath, as being, as now. The boat rocks gently. The lantern still flickers, and somewhere inside you, a knot loosens, the one tied by years of trying too hard, and in its place, a quiet truth begins to grow. You are not a draft. You are not waiting to be revised. You are already, wonderfully, a little chaotically, completely, enough. Now as the dream deepens, you feel something loosen inside you, like a ribbon unwinding. like the last sigh before sleep truly takes over. You're no longer thinking about the world. You're within it, not the loud one of headlines and lists, but the quiet one of shadows, softness and stray glimmers. Here, things don't make perfect sense. They don't need to. You're walking through a hallway of memories now, but not the polished ones you show others. No, these are the blurry, uneven ones. A cracked mug you couldn't throw away. A note someone left you on a napkin. A time you laughed so hard you snorted. Imperfect things. But they hold something, don't they? Something real. You pass a window. Or maybe it passes you. It's hard to say. Outside, there's a garden of half-grown things. Twisting vines, wilting sunflowers, fruit that's not quite ripe. And you think, this is still beautiful. Because perfection is often sterile. But life is messy, overgrown, unfinished, and that's what makes it glow. There's an obscure old Japanese tradition you might have never heard of, tsukemono, or pickled vegetables. But more than just a culinary art, it's a quiet ritual of care. They take what's fading, what's too soft, too bruised, too bitter, and gently preserve it, not to hide the imperfection, but to honor it, to say, you still matter, even like this. Imagine if we did that with ourselves. Confer, you feel a flutter of air, a breeze maybe imagined, the kind that brushes against your skin in dreams. And with it comes a new image, a mosaic. Hundreds of broken tiles, none of them matching, some sharp, some soft, some still dusty with time. But when placed together, they form something whole, something stunning. This is how many ancient cultures made their art. From the broken, from shards, from fragments of glass that once lived other lives. In Istanbul, they still preserve mosaics from 1,500 years ago. Each tile a whisper from the past, placed beside its imperfect neighbors to create wonder. You too are a mosaic, and nothing needs to match for you to be beautiful. Your limbs are heavier now, but it's a good heaviness. Like sinking into warm sand or a bath that holds you just right. Your thoughts have stopped asking questions. They've become more like clouds, just drifting shapes. And in this drifting, a memory surfaces, a time when you tried to be perfect, the way it wore you down, the way your smile became a task instead of a gift. You don't judge yourself for it. You just observe, like noticing a scar and gently touching it. Not to erase it, just to remember. Here's a strange historical fact, by the way. In the 1400s, map makers used to fill in unknown parts of the world with dragons and sea monsters. Not because they believed in them, but because they had to put something there. Emptiness was more terrifying than imperfection. So they made art out of not knowing. And maybe that's what you're doing too. Filling your unknowns, not with fear, but with story, with symbols, with dreams, even the strange ones. The covers shift slightly around you. Your breath makes a soft circle of warmth against your pillow. You could almost believe the world outside has stopped turning, just for you. And maybe it has, because inside this cocoon of half sleep, you are the center, not the center of attention, not the center of pressure, but the center of presence. And isn't it curious? That stars, those glowing giants in the sky, don't shine because they're solid. They shine because they're burning, because they're in constant collapse and rebirth. Because of chaos, their imperfection makes them light. You wonder, slowly and dreamily, if maybe your chaos serves a purpose too. The mismatched days, the awkward conversations, the dreams you've changed your mind about. Maybe they're not detours. Maybe they're constellations, ones you just haven't fully connected yet. Then, your body is still, but your awareness wanders like fog across a sleeping lake. And in that soft wandering, a question appears. Why do we love old things? An antique rocking chair, a crumpled book page, a song recorded with background hiss and vinyl crackle. It's because they carry time, because they've been through something. And maybe that's true of people too. Maybe you don't trust perfection because it hasn't weathered, because it hasn't earned its softness. But you have. Every smile line, every overthought text, every midnight cry and morning laugh, they've been earned. Somewhere in your subconscious there's a debate happening. Scientists still argue whether memories are stored as is or reconstructed each time you recall them. It's strange to think that remembering might actually change the memory, like a song that gets a little different every time you hum it. But maybe that's okay. Maybe healing doesn't mean restoring things. Exactly. Maybe it means loving the new version that comes after the crack. You're almost completely gone now. One last whisper of waking drifts through your chest, like dust motes in sun. And into that softness this image arrives. The pot, broken, but not discarded. Instead filled with gold. In Kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with molten gold, the flaw becomes the feature. The crack becomes the story. The value isn't despite the damage, it's because of it. And you wonder, what if your cracks were filled with gold too? What if the places that hurt you could one day shine? You don't have the answer, and you don't need one, because here, in this perfect imperfection, you are safe, not because everything's fine, but because you don't need to pretend anymore. You're allowed to be incomplete, and still so completely loved. Somewhere in the quiet, your breath becomes rhythm, not mechanical, not perfect, but alive. The slow inhale like drawing in the dusk, the softer exhale like releasing everything you forgot you were holding. And with each rise and fall, your mind drips further into a place that's neither memory nor fantasy, but something warmer, a space that accepts you exactly as you are. You're in a kitchen now. It smells like something old, toasted, familiar, maybe cinnamon, maybe your grandmother's tea. The light is low, like late afternoon, and dust dances in the beams. Nothing in this room matches. The chairs are from different sets. The mug's chipped. A painting leans against the wall, not hung. Its colours slightly faded, but still proud. And yet, it's the coziest place you've ever been. Not in spite of the imperfection, but because of it. This is not a showroom. It's a soul room. There's a phrase from the Norwegians, kosselegg. It doesn't translate directly. It means more than cozy. It's the warmth of candlelight on a cold night, the quiet of snow against the window as you wrap your hands around a chipped mug. Kosselegg is not about perfection. It's about presence, and tonight you're wrapped in it. You glance at the bookshelf. There are no curated collections here, just books read too many times. Covers softened from handling. Margins scribbled with half-thoughts and sleepy notes. Do you remember the last time you wrote something just for yourself? A doodle, a line of poetry, a messy journal entry, not to impress, not to perfect, just to exist. Sometimes, imperfection is proof of intimacy, like seeing someone without makeup or letting a friend into your unmade room. You're allowed to exist like that. A scientific thought flickers in the background of your dream. Did you know that snowflakes, often held up as symbols of perfection, are not actually symmetrical? In fact, they're full of microscopic variations. They may start with 6 points, but under pressure, temperature, and wind, each one becomes a chaotic miracle. No two are truly alike. So when someone says, "You're one of a kind," maybe it's not a compliment. Maybe it's just a fact. You wander toward a small mirror on the wall. It's old, a little cloudy at the edges. You don't see yourself clearly, but you do see softness. Not the harsh spotlight of judgment, but the kind of reflection you'd give a friend. Kind, curious, unhurried. There's a crack along the top of the glass. Someone tried to glue it once. The glue didn't hold. And yet, it still works, still reflects, still belongs. Like you. Here's something odd to consider. Bees sometimes make wonky honeycombs when their hive is disrupted. The perfect hexagons get lopsided. Cells start to slant, spiral. And do you know what the bees do? They just keep building. They adapt, reshape, and continue making honey. Nature doesn't erase mistakes. It absorbs them. So maybe your life doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe it just needs to continue. You sit down at the kitchen table. The wood is uneven. It rocks a little if you lean too far, but your elbows fit just right. Your body exhales into the chair like it's always belonged there. A cat stretches across the floor, or maybe it's a memory of a cat. You watch the way it yawns, unconcerned, utterly okay with being awkward, tangled, imperfectly perfect, and you smile. You always wanted to live like that, didn't you? Well, there's a drawer in the kitchen. You open it slowly. Inside are tangled things. Twine, mismatched batteries, paper clips, scissors, foreign coins. None of it is organized, but each item tells a story, a life lived, a moment kept. You don't throw anything away here, not because you're clinging, but because you honor things, even the broken scissors, even the battery that might still have a little charge. Imagine honoring yourself like that, not only for your usefulness, but simply for existing. A quirky fact: in 1974, NASA accidentally erased the original moon landing tapes. Yes, the most iconic footage in human history, gone due to over-recording. Was it a disaster? Sure. But guess what? The memory still lives on, because perfection isn't required for permanence. The feeling remains, even if the footage fades. Your moments are like that too. You don't have to document them perfectly. You just have to feel them. You hear the hum of a fridge now. Steady, background, comforting. Isn't it strange how we often fall asleep best to the imperfect noises? The fan clicking slightly, the radiator hissing, the neighbor's footsteps above, muffled and human. It reminds you that you're not alone, that life is still moving gently around you, like lullabies from a world that isn't trying too hard. Cohen, the kitchen begins to fade now, not like disappearing, more like dissolving, as if the dream is saying, "You've rested here long enough. Come with me now." You rise without moving, and the next space arrives, a sidewalk, wet with rain. The sky is bruised lavender, and everything smells like tomorrow. You walk barefoot, not because you have to, but because it feels good to let your feet remember the world. Another scientific tidbit bubbles up like steam from a sidewalk crack. Our brains are wired to seek patterns, to finish things. That's why cliffhangers bother us. Why we itch when songs cut off early. But life doesn't always finish its stories. Sometimes closure doesn't come with punctuation. Sometimes it's just silence. A page left intentionally blank. And maybe that's not failure. Maybe that's freedom. Not this. A mural appears on the wall beside you. It's weathered, paint chipping. Someone's graffiti tags half the lower edge. But you can still see it. A woman holding the moon in one hand. A crack splitting her body, but light spills from it. Not covered, celebrated. Maybe the artist knew something we forget. That our most luminous parts are often where we once broke. And you think, maybe I don't need to hide my cracks anymore. Maybe, just maybe, you were meant to shine through them. You're floating now, in that delicate space between waking and sleep, where time slows and boundaries dissolve. The ceiling becomes a sky, your pillow a small familiar cloud beneath you, and even though your eyes are closed, you can still feel the world. Its hum, its weight, its quiet imperfection wrapping around you like a soft, well-worn blanket. Remember the lean of the Tower of Pisa, the beautiful error that no one wants to fix anymore. That same kind of tilt exists inside you, in all your emotional architecture. And maybe, just maybe, it's what makes you unforgettable. You shift slightly, your shoulder sinks deeper into the mattress. Your body is slowly surrendering, but your mind, your mind is just beginning to wander into this thought. What if your imperfections aren't obstacles to love or peace? but the doorway to them, that uneven laugh, the scar on your wrist, the way you talk too fast when you're excited, those aren't errors to correct, they're breadcrumbs back to your real self. And the strange part? Other people notice. They feel it. Studies in psychology show that we're more drawn to others when they show vulnerability. There's even a name for this, the pratfall effect. When someone competent makes a small mistake, we actually like them more. It makes them human, approachable, relatable. You smile a little at that, don't you? The idea that your mess-ups might make someone's heart soften toward you, that your stumble could be someone else's relief. You're breathing deeper now. Each inhale tugs you closer to sleep, but not before you drift through another memory. Think of the last time someone told you a secret, not a polished confession, but something raw, messy, unfinished. Did you recoil? No. You leaned in. You wanted to hear more. You felt trusted. And the truth is, imperfection is the language of trust. No one whispers perfection. No one confides a flawless moment. We tell each other the gritty, awkward parts, because that's where connection lives. The breeze presses softly against your window now, and outside a moth flutters, drawn not to the cold, bright street lamp, but to the soft amber of your bedside light. There's a lesson there too. Even nature doesn't crave perfection. It seeks warmth, and warmth always lives in the slightly bent places. You're reminded of Kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold. When a bowl cracks, they don't hide the damage, they illuminate it. They make the scar the highlight. Imagine that for yourself. Imagine your emotional cracks filled with liquid gold, not erased, not hidden, but honored. Could you start seeing your own breaks like that? You shift again, barely, your fingers curling against the blanket. Your body already understands what your mind is beginning to remember. You were never meant to be untouched. You were meant to be worn in, like a favorite book, the pages dog-eared, the cover a little frayed. And speaking of books, there's a first edition of The Great Gatsby where one line has a printing error, a single word out of place. That edition, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, not in spite of the flaw, but because of it. You are not mass-produced. You are not a digital copy. You're a first edition, the real thing, imperfect and priceless. As your breath settles, you find yourself spiraling gently inward, into the folds of memory, of meaning, of moments you thought were failures, but maybe, just maybe, they were golden seams forming. Do you remember a moment when everything went wrong, and yet something beautiful still bloomed? A missed flight that led to a conversation that changed everything. A breakup that cracked you wide open just enough to let the light in. Even the stars we see in the sky, many are already gone. Their light just hasn't finished traveling yet. We're seeing the ghost of something imperfect, something over, and still we call it beautiful. Science tells us that starlight bends as it travels through space. It doesn't arrive in a straight line. The light curves, and maybe your life is like that too. Maybe the brightest parts of you have never followed a straight path. And maybe that's the point. Oh, there's something about the softness of your sheet now, how it cradles your hip, how it doesn't care whether your day was good or bad. It just holds you. And here's a soft, funny truth. Even the universe is a little messy. Galaxies collide. Black holes burp. Planets wobble in their orbits. Nothing is perfectly in place. Not even the cosmos. Scientists still argue over what caused the Big Bang. Some think it was a singularity. Others suggest a cosmic bounce. And a few even say we're just one bubble in a foam of infinite universes, but none of them describe it as neat. Creation is chaotic, and still here we are. You are part of that lineage, born not from perfection, but from glorious, expanding, mistake-ridden chaos. And yet, you bloom, then move, you exhale, a soundless, satisfied breath, and the room around you seems to sigh along. Shadows stretch, the corners blur, and you feel the edges of your body growing fuzzy. like the boundary between sky and sea at dawn. Maybe there's peace in letting go of the curated version of you, the one who always says the right thing, the one with the right angles and right answers. Maybe tonight, you can just be the one who is. Because the people who love you, they don't love your perfect posture. They love the way your voice cracks when you're emotional. They love how your socks never match. They love your awkward dance moves and your unfiltered laugh. And tonight, so do you. Let that truth be a pillow under your head. Let it hold you until sleep pulls you gently under. The stars are messy. The earth is cracked. The moon leans a little. And you beautiful broken golden scarred thing, are exactly enough. You're drifting deeper now, slipping past the outer edges of wakefulness into that sacred middle place where thought becomes image and sensation becomes story. The air feels thicker, heavier with dreams. Like velvet soaked in moonlight, your body settles, slow and rooted, while your mind begins to float upward like steam rising from a mug in a quiet kitchen. Somewhere in your mind, a door creaks open, not loudly, not jarringly, but like the sigh of an old friend you didn't know you missed. And through that door, memory, emotion, wonder. Do you remember that moment when you looked at an old photograph of yourself and smiled? Not because you looked flawless, but because you looked real. Maybe your hair was messy. Maybe your smile was crooked. Maybe you had no idea the picture was even being taken, and that's why you loved it. Because perfection feels distant, but imperfection feels close, like breath on your shoulder, like the sound of your own heartbeat in the dark. Your fingers twitch slightly under the covers. A dream is forming just at the edge of you, unformed, warm, waiting, and as it arrives, you feel a truth settle softly into your chest. There's something sacred about the unfinished. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a term, Wabi, Sabi. It means finding beauty in the transient, the incomplete, the imperfect. A cracked teacup, a fading leaf, the way a song sometimes cuts off too soon and stays with you more because of it. You wonder if maybe you are wabi-sabi too, if maybe the moments in your life that didn't go as planned, the job that slipped away, the apology you never got, the version of yourself you couldn't hold on to, weren't failures, but features, like brush strokes in a painting you were never meant to finish. And here's a quirky tidbit that floats gently into your drowsy brain. Did you know that no snowflake is actually symmetrical? Despite the old drawings and childhood cartoons, real snowflakes are full of tiny flaws. They're a bit lopsided, a bit chaotic, still beautiful, still one of a kind. So maybe, just maybe, you're not a broken snowflake, you're a real one. And in a world obsessed with looking perfect, that's a kind of rebellion. You smile in the dark at that, because rebellion never looked so gentle. Taka. Now your breath is slow, easy, anchored. The kind of breath that only happens when you feel truly safe. And there's something soothing about that. This idea that you don't have to keep holding everything together tonight. You can let your edges fray. You can let the mask slide. You can let yourself be undone. Because even in neuroscience, researchers still debate what consciousness is. Some say it's a product of complex neural patterns. Others suggest it arises from quantum processes in the brain. Still others think it's an emergent property of information. But the truth, no one knows for sure. And maybe that mystery is okay. Maybe the not knowing is part of the wonder. Because if your very mind is something imperfectly understood, if your dreams are stitched from fragments and static, then you don't need to be a finished equation. You're an open question, a spark in the fog, a poem with no final stanza. Hey, you're deeper now, almost weightless, and the silence is full of softness, not emptiness, but presence. You recall a piece of driftwood you once saw on a beach, weathered, scarred, smoothed by years of wind and wave, no longer what it used to be, but beautiful because of what it had survived. That's you too, not untouched, but smoothed by time, changed by tides, and still here, You might be surprised to learn that sea glass, those soft frosted fragments that wash up on shore, start out as trash, bottles, broken windows, shards, and over years of tumbling, they become treasured, displayed, collected. They become precious because they were changed. You turn slightly, one shoulder dipping into the warmth of your bed, your breath brushing the pillow. And in that movement is a kind of surrender. The surrender of needing to be anything other than what you are. A small sound outside, a distant dog bark, or maybe a car moving slowly down the road, feels miles away now. Your awareness is shrinking inward, like a telescope folding itself gently into night. And you remember, even the moon is imperfect, pockmarked with craters, dusty, off-center in its orbit. And yet, we write songs about it. We lovers gaze at it. We mark time by its face. Perfection was never the point. Presence was. In ancient Rome, when artists sculpted statues, they often left a small flaw somewhere hidden in the piece. Why? Because perfection, they believed, was the domain of the gods. To claim flawlessness would be arrogant, so they humbled themselves on purpose. And maybe you, in your humanness, in your scars and contradictions and unresolved stories, you are the perfect kind of imperfect, an artist's signature, a fingerprint in clay, a soul too real to be polished, smooth. Really, now your heart beats slower, each thump a quiet echo in the darkness. You're almost completely gone now, just a whisper of awareness trailing behind the weightless body that was yours. And still, one last thought floats up like a lantern in the night. What if the universe made you exactly as you are? Not so you could fix yourself, but so you could find yourself? In the pauses, in the stretch marks, in the tears you tried to hide. What if love was never meant to be perfect either? What if real love is found in shared silences, mismatched socks, and the laughter that comes after everything falls apart? You feel your lips relax, the muscles of your face soften, even your dreams are beginning to slow. Tonight, you are enough. Not because you fixed everything, but because you let it be. You're drifting, you're dissolving, you're golden in your brokenness. Sleep is waiting. Just on the other side of this breath, the glass chair dissolves beneath you. Not with a crash, but with a sigh. It doesn't fall. It simply ceases to be. As if it was never glass at all, but a thought, one that finished forming and vanished like steam. You find yourself descending now, not walking, just drifting down as though the air has cradled you like a feather and decided where you go next. And where you land is soft. It smells of rain on warm stone. The sky is lavender. The light bends in strange, forgiving ways. Everything here has the hue of a memory that never quite happened. You realize you've arrived in a village made entirely of forgotten stories. Every building, every bench, every lantern flickering in a soft breeze. They're all things someone once dreamed of creating, and never did. A cafe with spiral stairs made of spoons. A library shaped like a seashell. A garden that blooms only under starlight. You wander quietly, not wanting to disturb the almost silence. The kind of silence you get in museums or when reading old letters. One of the buildings beckons to you. It's a cinema, its marquee blank, but glowing. Inside, there's one seat, and a screen that flickers to life the moment you settle in. You're watching yourself, not as you are, not even as you were, but as you might have been, every version of you that almost existed. The violinist, the lighthouse keeper, the barefoot botanist who only wore green and talked to vines, the astronaut who cried the first time they saw Earth spin alone. You watch them laugh, cry, dance, sleep, and one by one they turn to look at you, just for a moment. Not with regret, not envy, just recognition. You are them, and they are you. A scientific aside, while you're here, some quantum physicists believe in the many worlds interpretation that every decision spawns an alternate universe, one where you chose differently. If that's true, then you're infinite, infinitely flawed, infinitely beautiful, infinitely becoming. The movie ends. The screen fades, but not to black, rather to that same strange lavender that colours the whole place. And now, something strange and lovely. A door opens behind you, revealing a staircase made entirely of soft, floating paper cranes. You smile. You've stopped asking why things happen in this world. The answer has always been the same, because this is the world between worlds, where dreams and memory shake hands. Halfway up the paper crane stairs, you pause because the staircase turns into a rope bridge. How does a thing like that happen? And why does it feel right? There's no railing, just you, the sway, and the sky below. You walk with arms stretched, not for balance, but to feel the stretch of your own courage. That's what imperfection does. It doesn't always teach, but it always stretches. You make it across. You always do. In dreams. Even if the waking world forgets that, you arrive at a mountaintop that doesn't feel cold. And there's someone waiting there. Not someone you know. And yet, someone you know. They're wearing your favourite old hoodie. They smell like fresh pages and tea. They say nothing. They only hold out their hand. And in it, a cracked mirror. You peer in and see not just your face, but every scar, freckle, pimple, laugh line and sleepless night written across it like a language only you can read. A broken reflection, yes, but the kind that lets light scatter in 12 directions at once. Perfect mirrors give back nothing but what you already know. Broken ones let the truth slip through. As you look, you remember a lovely little fact. In ancient times, the Japanese believed that mirrors had spirits, that their reflections could trap souls, that to polish them was a spiritual act. Maybe that's what you're doing now, polishing your reflection, not to make it smoother, but to make it realer. The mirror fades, the mountaintop softens, and the sky opens, not with thunder, but with invitation. 100 stairs descend into it, woven from smoke and melody and memory. You place your bare foot on the first one. No need to ask where they lead. Some journeys answer only in motion. The music fades, not into silence, but into softness, the kind of quiet that's full of presence, not emptiness. Like when you sit beside someone you love, and there's nothing left to say, but you stay anyway. You're not falling now. You're not even floating. You're resting, somewhere between the stars and your spine, between memory and mystery, a space that doesn't need definition. You land in a small room. It's round. The walls are made of quilted fabric, patchwork memories, textured dreams, moments you forgot you remembered. There's a window, but it doesn't look out. It looks in, and through it, you see all the versions of you. The child who asked too many questions, the teen who tried on masks and wondered which one fit, the adult who still isn't quite sure how this whole life thing works. They're not judging you, they're waving, and you wave back, a gentle tap on your shoulder, but a scent fills the air, petrichor and old books. You turn and there's no one there. That's when you notice the floor. It's glass. Beneath it, a swirling ocean of thoughts and dreams and half-formed plans. You kneel, touch the surface. It doesn't shatter. It sings, each note a reminder. You don't need to be whole to be holy. You don't need to be fixed to be worthy. You are not waiting to be enough. You already are. A spiral staircase appears. Each step is labelled with something you once feared, not knowing, and now the dreaming slows. The echoes quiet. The stars dim just a little, tucking themselves behind velvet clouds. You are no longer travelling. You are simply here. The breath in your chest moves like tidwater, soft, inevitable. The weight in your limbs, like warm sand at the end of a long day. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix, no more questions to answer or roles to perform. Tonight, the world will spin without you pushing it. The moon will rise without your permission. And that's a kind of magic too. Even in stillness, life continues. In this final drift you are held by the sum of your stories, by the hum of the universe, by every version of you that made it this far. Remember the softness in your flaws, the beauty in your trying. Let go of what didn't happen. The quiet poetry of your continued becoming. Let go of who didn't understand. Let go of the shoulds, the coulds, the almosts. And in their place, let a gentle light take root. You dream, even while awake, not the frantic kind with clocks melting or teeth falling out, but those slow, syrupy ones where the edges blur and time forgets to be strict. You're walking again, this time along a shoreline you don't recognize, yet somehow remember. The waves are gentle, like breath. They pull in, then release, like the world is practicing how to let go. A small boat rocks at the edge of the surf. No oars, no name, just waiting. You step inside, not because you know where it's going, but because stillness is a language too. The boat begins to drift, not with purpose, but with permission, and in that motion, you realize you've never been truly still. Not really, always tensing toward the next thing, reaching for something shinier, smoother, less you. But the ocean doesn't need your ambition, only your presence. Your fingers trail the water. It's cooler than expected, and softer too, like the first pages of a book you already love. You think about how many stories we rush, how many chapters we skim because they're too slow, but aren't those the ones that stay with us? The lingering ones, the imperfect ones, the way a friend mispronounces espresso for years, and you never correct them, because it's become a part of who they are. Before the stars begin to peek through the indigo sky, early, eager, like toddlers at a window, waiting for guests who haven't arrived. One star flickers, then fades. Astronomers might call it a variable star, one that pulses unevenly with time. But to you it just seems honest. Even stars have off days. Even stars need a break from shining. The boat drifts past a cluster of rock, and you notice something carved into one of them. A single word, enough. It's worn and weathered, letters softened by salt and wind, but it still speaks. You wonder who carved it, what they were trying to remember, or forget, and suddenly you wish you could whisper that word to every part of yourself you've criticized. Enough. Not as in stop, but as in, you are already worthy, already here. A gentle spray kisses your cheek, salts laced and unexpected. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because your body remembers joy, even when your mind forgets. That's the magic of imperfection. A sneeze in the middle of a kiss, a crack in the favorite mug, a song lyric misheard for years, and somehow better that way. Somewhere above, a satellite blinks across the sky, a human-made star. We think about all the things humans have built, not perfectly, but persistently. Cathedrals that took centuries, spacecrafts that missed the moon, yet showed us other galaxies. Even the most intricate lace has snags. Even the finest silk comes from a worm's messy hunger. Maybe messiness is sacred. Maybe the universe prefers it that way. You lie down in the boat now. The wood creaks, but it doesn't break. There's a comfort in how things hold us, even when they're worn, like old sweaters or childhood blankets, or that one person who always says the wrong thing, but shows up anyway. The moon rises, and you think of a quirky science fact. The moon is slowly drifting away from Earth, about 3.8 centimeters per year. You smile. Even the moon needs space. Above you, constellations start forming imaginary stories. The hunter, the swan, the sleeping fox. None of them are real, but all of them feel true. It's how we make meaning, drawing lines between specks of light and calling them something bigger. You wonder what story someone might draw from your scattered pieces, and what name they'd give it. A light breeze carries the scent of something wild, not flowers, not salt, but something older, like petrichor, or old books, or the space between two people who love each other quietly. The kind of scent that doesn't sell well in bottles, but lives forever in memory. You close your eyes again, and this time, you let the waves carry you further. Not to escape, but to arrive at nothing and everything, all at once. You feel yourself melting deeper into the cradle of the boat, no longer simply resting, but becoming part of it. The difference is subtle, like the difference between hearing a lullaby and remembering your mother humming it before you were born. There's a stillness here, but not the empty kind. This stillness is full, like a room that just witnessed a secret. You smile without knowing why. Maybe you don't need to. The sky above begins to shift, not in color, but in feeling, as if the cosmos itself just took a long breath. There's a theory some astronomers share over late-night coffee. That space is not truly silent. That, in the vacuum, vibrations still move, just too slowly, too subtly for human ears. They call it the music of the spheres. You imagine it now, a deep, eternal hum, the universe singing a lullaby to itself. And somehow, you're part of the chorus. At the end, in the distance, you notice a soft shimmer across the water. It's not light exactly, more like a memory wrapped in mist. As your boat drifts toward it, you see where it's coming from. A floating dock made entirely of mismatched doors. Some are painted, some bare. Some still have rusted knobs and old names etched into them. Each one once opened into someone's story. Now they open into the sea. You step out onto the first door, cautiously. It wobbles under your weight, but holds. And you walk from one story to the next. A bedroom door with stickers peeling off. A church door with chipped white paint. A glass sliding door, cracked like old ice. Each one whispers something, not in words, but in feeling. Come as you are, they seem to say. No need to knock. Da. You pause on a door with a crescent carved into the wood, faint and uneven, clearly done by a child. You remember carving your initials once, on a park bench, then panicking and trying to scratch them out. But now you wonder, what if the marks we regret are just evidence that we were here? There's a kind of holiness in a mistake made with heart, a kind of poetry in wanting something badly enough to leave a mark. You sit down, right there on that old crescent door, and you think of all the things you tried to hide, the shaky handwriting, the nervous stutter, the too loud laugh, the time you said too much, and now drifting among doors and stories and stars, you realize those moments didn't make you less. They made you real. Right, you remember a curious fact. Japanese pottery has a tradition called Kintsugi. When a bowl breaks, they repair it with gold. The cracks aren't hidden, they are illuminated. The floor becomes the feature. You think of your own crack, the emotional ones, the little fractures, life left behind. What if you filled them with gold? What if your scars were mapped, not warnings? The mist around you thickens gently, like a curtain being drawn between acts, and through it, a structure emerges. A cathedral made of glass bottles, all shapes, all colors, green wine bottles, blue vases, amber medicine jars. The light filters through them like stained glass, and you realize each bottle once held something. Joy, grief, celebration, illness, love. Now they hold only light. You enter. There's no door, just an invitation. Inside it's quiet, but not empty. You hear the clink of glass shifting slightly in the breeze, and it feels like applause, not for performance, but for presence, for showing up, for staying, for being. You sit on a bench made of driftwood and bottle caps. It creaks like an old song, and you look up. The ceiling is open. Stars peek through the spaces between bottles. Light filtered through imperfection, and suddenly you understand something. Perfection is not symmetry, it's harmony, and harmony always includes dissonance. A soft voice in your mind wonders, What if you were never supposed to be flawless? What if the goal was always to be whole? And wholeness, true wholeness, includes every missed note, every forgotten line, every unpolished truth. The part of you that's tired, the part of you that's scared, the part of you that still wonders if you're enough, they all belong here. You leave the glass cathedral slowly, not because you're rushed, but because the pace of peace is never fast. Your feet return to the door dock, to the stories underfoot, to the water holding it all up. You look behind. The light through the bottles still glows, like a sunset you forgot to chase. And ahead, the boat waits. No pressure, no urgency, just presence. Up, you step in. The wood greets you, familiar now, like a friend who never asks where you've been. You lean back, eyes half-lidded, heart half-healed, but whole in the only way that matters. Imperfectly, honestly, enough. And as the boat begins to move again, you hear something faint, a laugh, your own, echoing off the bottles, ringing through the cathedral, rising into the stars. It sounds beautiful, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. And tonight, that's more than enough. You drift further now, the oars of time gently pulling you into a new layer of stillness. Not deeper, just wider, like your mind has rolled open. A field instead of a tunnel. Somewhere in this watery expanse, you realize you're no longer thinking in words, only in textures, emotions, shimmers of knowing. Still thoughts come, soft ones, wrapped in curiosity, and you welcome them like small birds landing on your shoulder. There's a sound beneath the silence, something like the purring of the earth. Have you ever heard a glacier crack from within? It doesn't sound violent. It sounds like a sigh held for 1,000 years. A reminder, even the oldest, strongest things need to shift sometimes. You feel your own ice moving, a tiny reconfiguration of who you are. Locked, the boat slows near a floating garden. Yes, a garden, right here on the water. Lush moss, instead of soil. Sunflowers, taller than dreams. Vines stretching into the sky as if trying to reach forgotten constellations. You drift closer, drawn by scent and softness. The flowers don't bloom in unison. Some are wilting, some still buds, some already turned toward the moon instead of the sun. And yet, somehow, it's the most beautiful thing you've seen, a messy, breathing patchwork of living and dying at once. Then, you step onto the moss, surprised by its warmth. It feels like childhood, like running barefoot through memory. The garden has no paths, only invitations. A twisted bench of ivy-covered stone, a mirror hanging from a tree, cracked but intact. A series of birdhouses, each holding a different scent. Cinnamon, pine, warm bread. You inhale them slowly, each breath a new lifetime. Somewhere nearby, you hear bees humming, a low, steady chorus of persistence. Did you know bees sleep too? They hold each other's legs at night, dangling from petals, in tiny, vibrating clusters of rest. You imagine them dreaming of flowers they've yet to find, of hives not yet built. You envy their trust, their ability to rest midair, knowing something will hold them. You find a tree at the center of the garden. It is not grand, not symmetrical. Its branches twist and wander like a child's doodle. A swing hangs from one side, rope frayed, wood worn smooth by laughter. You sit, not to swing, just to be. The branch groans gently under your weight, not a protest, a welcome. The bark has initials carved deep into its side, pairs of letters, some with hearts, some scratched out. You wonder how many of those stories ended in tears, and how many turned into poems. And there's an old idea from medieval manuscripts, the marginalia. Notes written in the margins of sacred texts, sometimes jokes, sometimes prayers, sometimes doodles of cats, imperfect, unauthorized, human. You think about the margins of your own life, the quiet notes you've scribbled between the big events, the giggles in the serious moments, the mistakes that taught more than the plan ever did. You think maybe that's where the soul lives, not in the chapters, but the scribbles. The wind picks up, and suddenly the petals around you begin to fall. Not fast, not sad. They fall like they know it's their time, like they've given all they could, and now it's okay to let go. You watch them float into the water, each one making a tiny ripple, then disappearing. You whisper to no one in particular, "Thank you," and it feels like enough. The step. A scientific fact emerges, soft as breath. The average person sheds about 600,000 skin cells every hour. You're constantly falling apart and constantly renewing, even as you rest, and now you're being made new. Not all change is loud. Some of it happens in the quiet, like moss growing on stone or trust returning after heartbreak. A rustling sound draws your attention. A fox steps out from behind a patch of lavender. It sees you. You see it, and neither of you flinch. It walks right up to you, its fur a mix of flame and dust, its eyes wiser than your years. It places its head on your knee for just 1 second, then vanishes into the green again, leaving behind a single white feather. No fox you've read about has feathers, but dreams don't need to explain themselves, and perhaps perfection never did either. The garden begins to shift again, not in a dramatic way, more like a page turning when you weren't looking. The flowers tilt toward a moon you hadn't noticed. The vines curl around your ankles like a goodbye hug. You rise, a little lighter than before. You walk back to the edge, where your boat waits, faithful as breath. You step in without checking for balance, because now you trust the water. You trust the weight of who you are. All of it, even the parts still learning how to bloom. The pace, and as the boat pulls gently away, you hear a sound that stops your breath, the soft, honest hum of 100 sleeping bees, dreaming in the darkness. You hum back, a harmony made of silence, crack, curiosity, and that strange, undeniable truth. Imperfection feels so perfect. You expand. You don't fall, drifting through the tapestry of colors and memory, sound and sensation. You become something both immense and intimate. Time dissolves, a participant in your own becoming, a floating observer. And suddenly, you're in a hallway, not one made of bricks or beams, but of mirrors, thousands of them, each one shaped like a slightly different version of you. Some smiling, some crying, some wearing clothes you forgot you loved, some wild-eyed and electric, some quiet, nearly translucent. You walk slowly. Each reflection tilts its head as you pass. None of them are wrong. All of them are real. You touch the glass of one mirror. It doesn't resist. Your hand moves through it like fog, and you step into a memory, not one you remember consciously, but something that lives in your bones. You're 9 years old. You're holding a drawing, one you made. You loved it, but someone told you the proportions were off, that it wasn't realistic. You crumpled it and stopped drawing for a while. The you in the mirror looks at you now, older, wiser, and hands the drawing back. You smooth it out, and something unlocks in your chest. Perfection was never the point. Expression was. A voice whispers, not from the mirror, but from inside your rib cage. Why do you only celebrate your finished products? You sit with that, and the mirrors keep showing you other unfinished things. The novel you started and abandoned, the project you kept tinkering with, the friendships you never got to explain, the part of yourself you left behind to fit in. You want to apologize to them, but they just smile. They're not angry. They're waiting. You wander deeper, and now the mirrors shift. They begin to bend, morph into curves and waves. Some make you taller, wider, softer, stranger. And suddenly it's funny. You laugh, but mirrors don't lie, because all this time you thought one shape was correct. They just reflect, and they're all shaped by the frame. You sit in front of one. This one shows you, not as you think you are, but as someone who loves you sees you. It's disorienting, because the version staring back is so gentle, soft eyes, a mouth that's allowed to rest, hands that don't apologize for shaking. But because of existence, this version of you is enough, not because of achievement. A soft hum begins again, the same one from the stairway, but now it has lyrics, not in any language, just syllables that feel like they mean something. You hum along. The door is slightly ajar, not in a spooky way, not dramatic, just inviting, like someone left it open because they trusted you'd find your way here eventually. You push it gently. It swings open with a low creak, the kind that would be eerie in a horror movie, but feels soothing here, like an old violin string loosening into a sigh. Inside is a studio, not a film studio, not an art studio, a life studio. Everything you've ever attempted lives here. Paintings, poems, inventions, blueprints, playlists, half-written letters, recipes you swore you'd perfect on day, shelves full of scribbled notes and scattered dreams. But there's no dust. Nothing is forgotten. Only waiting. You walk slowly, fingers brushing over old paper and fabric, hearing faint echoes of your own voice, laughing, questioning, gasping at moments of sudden inspiration. You reach a small table in the corner. There's a project sitting there. You remember it vividly. You abandoned it because it wasn't going anywhere, but now you see it with different eyes. It wasn't going anywhere because you were still becoming the person who could take it somewhere. Maybe that's what imperfection is. Time still unfolding. You sit at the table. The chair adjusts to you, as if recognizing you. The light over your head flickers, then steadies, warm, golden. You pick up a pen, or a brush, or an instrument. It doesn't matter. The act of reaching is the sacred part. You begin again, not from scratch, from story. And the moment you do, the room subtly shifts. Walls soften. The ceiling opens slightly, revealing a sky above the sky. One filled with constellations that look strangely familiar. One of them is shaped like the crack in your childhood bedroom wall. Another looks like your grandmother's brooch. Another pulses like a heart. A soft voice, not your own, but also not your own, says, "You are a cathedral of nearlies and not yets." And that makes you infinite. You smile, because you feel it. You move from station to station in the studio. Each space holds a part of you that once felt broken, and instead of hiding them, you begin weaving them together. A tapestry of contradictions, the time you got it wrong and made it right, the thing you feared and later sought, the part you denied that turned out to be the key. It's not a self-portrait, it's a map. A strange, wobbly, deeply honest map of your becoming. The boat rocks slightly beneath you, as if it too has exhaled. You lie back now, letting your fingers dangle over the side, skimming the surface of this dreamlike water. Each ripple feels like a memory just out of reach. Soft edges, a sensation that asks for nothing but presence. Slippery warmth. You look up. Above you, the sky has shifted again. It's deeper now. A velvet indigo dusted with stars that flicker like candle flames behind foggy glass. Not perfect pinpricks. No, these stars dance. They blur, they pulse. They wander slightly out of line, and in their chaos, they are impossibly beautiful. You've probably heard it before, but it lands differently now. The stars we see tonight may have already died. Their light is just arriving. What a thought. That something can be gone, and still give light. Maybe that's what your laughter is to someone else, still illuminating someone's darkness. Maybe your past kindnesses are still traveling, long after you've forgotten them. You smile at that. A quiet, content sort of smile. The boat glides past a cliff face. It rises abruptly out of the water. massive and curved like the back of an ancient sleeping whale. Etched into the stone are thousands of symbols, faded markings that seem to shimmer when you don't look at them directly. You try to read them, not with your eyes, but with something older, deeper. Somewhere inside, you feel their meaning before understanding it. They are stories, not about heroes or villains, but about choices, regret, forgiveness, laughter in the wrong places, tears in the right ones. A reminder etched in the cliffs. Your story doesn't have to be carved in straight lines. It just has to be honest. There's a tale from Japanese pottery you recall now. Kintsugi, the art of repairing broken ceramics with gold. Not hiding the crack, but honoring them, making the flaw the most precious part. You wonder, if your heart were a bowl, what would its golden lines look like? Which fracture lines have made you softer, not harder? Which breaks have let the light seep in, not out? You picture it now, a warm, cupped vessel, delicate in some places, bold in others, stitched with gleaming seams of gold that catch the starlight above. It's not perfect, but it's entirely yours, and entirely enough. The boat drifts onward, as if respecting this moment, just gliding, quiet, steady, understanding, not rushing it. Far off, a bell tolls. You can't see where it comes from, but the sound folds into the night like a breath held and slowly released. It doesn't feel ominous. It feels reassuring, as if someone somewhere is keeping time for you. No matter how lost or unhurried you may feel, there's a rhythm to everything. You begin to notice it again, the unspoken choreography of the universe. Leaves falling in spirals, the tides hush and pull. Even your breath, in, out, nothing demands perfection. In, out, nothing keeps score. And still, it carries you. Even your heartbeat stumbles sometimes. There's something charmingly useless about a firefly, isn't there? No grand meaning, tiny, blinking, drifting, no great power, just glowing. And yet, on summer nights, children chase them like treasure. Artists paint them. Lovers pause to admire their flicker. Poets write entire stanzas for them. So maybe being small and lovely is enough. Maybe being a brief light in someone's dusk is a purpose all its own. The thought warms you more than any blanket could. Up ahead, the boat moves toward a soft fog, the curtain between where you are and whatever comes next. You're not afraid. You've come to learn that not knowing is a gift. That space between clarity and confusion, it's alive. It breathes, and you. It invites, bathed in imperfection, woven through with golden scars, are ready to drift a little deeper. Section 30, no subtitle. A soft wind lifts your hair, almost curious, like it's asking a quiet question no one else can hear. You've crossed into a dreamier stretch of the journey now, where reality relaxes its grip, and even the stars seem to hum a little lullaby just for you. They blink lazily overhead, not in rigid constellations but scattered freckles on the skin of the cosmos. Imperfect, as they should be, somewhere between one breath and the next. The scent touches the air, lavender, maybe, or something older, something with memory. It's the kind of smell that folds into your chest and stays there like a story you once forgot. You lean back, eyes half-lidded, as the boat glides through waters so calm, so glassy, it reflects not only the stars but your thoughts too. And there it is, the idea that imperfection is not a flaw in the design, but the design itself. In the archives of art history, there's a term pentimento. It refers to the traces of an earlier painting beneath a final one, an artist's first attempt, a revised vision, a changed mind. You see it sometimes when the top layers fade, ghostly outlines of an abandoned arm or an altered gaze, not hidden, not erased, just living underneath. That's what people are too. Pentimentos, layered, edited, and still becoming. You wonder, How many of your old selves still glow faintly beneath the surface? The part of you who once feared storms, the version who danced in the kitchen at midnight, the one who once cried for no reason on a bus ride and felt, oddly, better for it. None of them are lost. You are a masterpiece that isn't finished. They're just painted over with a little more courage, a little more time. But that doesn't mean it isn't already art. A loon calls across the water. Its voice is hollow, echoing like a question from another world. You tilt your head toward it, not to answer, but to feel how sound can stretch across emptiness and still belong. And for the first time in a long time, you stop trying to fix the silences. You just let them be. Scientists still debate whether silence is truly silent. Even in the vacuum of space, where there's no air to carry sound, there's evidence of vibration. Residual tremors, quantum murmurs. You walk on, through that silver-lit quiet where even the wind seems to step softly. The cat has vanished, because of course it has. But the feeling it left behind lingers, like a scent you can't quite name. You're heading somewhere, though no destination was given. It's like that in dreams, and maybe in life too. Sometimes the journey only makes sense in hindsight. Up ahead, a lone staircase rises from the earth. No walls, no tower, just steps climbing into nothing. You hesitate at the base. What kind of person walks up a staircase with no clear ending? Then again, what kind of person doesn't, when the moonlight hits it just right? So you climb. Each step creaks like it remembers something. Your weight, perhaps, or someone you once were, or maybe just its own loneliness. Halfway up, a breeze catches your hair and brings with it a sound, a soft, unhurried piano melody, like a lullaby played underwater. It stirs something in your chest that's not sadness, not quite joy, but something in between, the kind of emotion that doesn't need a name. At the top you find nothing, which is everything, just air, sky, stillness, and one small chair made of glass, looking out over clouds that glow with internal starlight. You sit, of course you do. Let's talk about Japanese pottery for a moment. There's a method called Kintsugi, where broken ceramic is repaired with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The flaw becomes the highlight. The scar becomes the art. What once was ruined becomes more valuable, not despite the damage, but because of it. And now you're sitting on your own invisible kintsugi moment, realizing how many golden cracks you've earned. Below, cities sleep. Above, stars blink their ancient Morse code. And you're somewhere in the middle, held, not by geography, but by grace. You remember something strange now. In 1957, a Russian dog named Laika became the first living creature to orbit Earth. She didn't survive, but her heartbeat was recorded, and it slowed when she looked out the window. She wasn't afraid. She was in awe. That moment lives in our DNA. Somehow, the shared memory of looking out into mystery and finding peace instead of panic. You close your eyes and feel your heartbeat slowing in rhythm with Laika's, a little faster than a lullaby, a little slower than a sigh. And all at once, you remember a childhood night, lying in bed, tracing the ceiling cracks, and pretending they were rivers on a map no one had explored yet. You didn't need them to lead anywhere, just to exist. This is what imperfection does, isn't it? It gives us something to wonder about, to feel toward, to not quite understand. Like that friend who always says the wrong thing but means well, or the sweater you wear with a hole in the sleeve because it smells like someone you miss, or the photograph with a blurry corner that somehow makes the moment feel more alive. Perfect things are sterile, sealed, closed, but imperfect things, they breathe. There's a soft ding, like an elevator bell in a hotel you've never stayed in, and beside you now, on a ledge that wasn't there before, is a key, not gold, not glowing, just a key. You take it. You don't ask what it opens. You don't need to know. Some knowledge is meant to arrive slowly, like fog lifting, or like sleep when you stop chasing it. You climb, not with urgency, but reverence. Each stair breathes under your step, shifting slightly like a living thing adjusting to your rhythm, not around you. And as you ascend, something starts to happen. Within you, a light pressure at the back of your eyes, a hum deep in your sternum, the quiet, glorious ache of becoming something new. It's not dramatic, more like the soft unfolding of a leaf after rain. You realize you are molting, not your skin, but your expectations, the ones that kept you chasing polished perfection, that taught you to sand down your edges and straighten your smile. They're falling behind with every step. At the 23rd stair you stop, because you hear music. No instruments, just sound that feels like it's being played on your spine. Soft, imperfect, slightly out of tune and therefore human. You think about this. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras believed the universe was music. He called it the harmony of the spheres, a cosmic song created by the movement of celestial bodies. You wonder now, what if the disharmony matters just as much? As you resume climbing, you see doorways branching off the stairs. Maybe the off notes are what make the melody yours. Each one labelled in handwriting that feels strangely familiar. You peek into one and see your 8th grade bedroom, exactly as it was. Posters, chaos, that one drawer that always got stuck. You smile and move on. Another doorway, a future that never happened. You, in another city, with someone you once thought you'd love forever. They're happy. You're happy, but you don't go in, because that version is complete. And you're still being written. Another step. The doorway shows your hands, older now, wiser, wrinkled from too much laughter and dishes, and holding too tightly and letting go too late. You press your fingers to the frame. It feels warm. You start to notice something odd. Each stair leaves a little imprint behind. Not a footprint, but a mood print. Like your emotions are painting the stairs. One glows a little blue melancholy. One sparkles gold delight. One shimmers green. Jealousy, envy, no, yearning. And none of them are wrong. None of them stain. They're just there. You remember a quirky psychological theory, Plotchik's Wheel of Emotions. It maps out human feelings in a colourful flower, showing how they blend and swirl. Scientists still debate whether emotions are innate or learned, universal or cultural, fixed or fluid. But up here, you realise they're not meant to be controlled. They're weather. You're the sky. At the 88th stair, something calls your name. Not loudly, more like a whisper, in a dream you can't remember upon waking. You follow it, and it leads you into a room with no floor, only stars. You step forward and instead of falling, you float. This is what it feels like to surrender to your own complexity. No edits, no filters, no fix it in post. You flip slowly in space, hair drifting like seaweed in a current of light, and somewhere between your ribs and your memory, you feel a truth crystallize. Your imperfections are not mistakes, they're brushstrokes, signs of life, fingerprints left on the clay by the hands that shaped you. You've always been art, even when you didn't see the frame. One star floats closer. It carries an image, burned into light. You as a child, grinning with missing teeth and mud on your face, not caring about symmetry or approval or algorithms, just joy, the kind that existed before comparison learned your name. As that star drifts away, another arrives. It holds something stranger, an apology, from yourself to yourself for all the times you held yourself to impossible standards.